Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to migrate Smart AI to another project and get it set up so you can attack the AI with your own character and have the AI attack you. So before we migrate the files to your project, we're going to go over to it first. And so I'm using the first person template, but this process would be fairly similar for your own project. So we're going to start by going to the edit and then to editor preferences, and we'll search for EQS. And we need to enable environment query system. This is important because Smart AI requires this to be enabled to work correctly. So once we've enabled that, we need to restart this project quickly. So we're just going to close it and reopen it. So I'm going to do that now. Once that's done, we can close out the editor preferences and we can go to settings, project settings. And in here, we're going to go to the collision tab, and we're going to create a new object channel. And this is going to be called trigger, T-I-G-G-E-R. And we're going to set it to ignore. Hit accept. And then we're going to create a new, two new trace channels actually. So the first one will be called weapons, sorry. Make sure that it's spelled the same way. And we want it to be block. And then we're going to do another new one, and we're going to call this cover. And again, set to block. Next, we're going to go click the presets drop down, and we're going to edit these presets to be set up correctly with our new trace channels. So we'll start with no collision, and we just want to tick the ignore on weapons and cover and hit accept. Then block all, this is okay. Then we want to go to overlap all, and we'll do the same for weapons and cover, and we'll tick overlap. We'll go to overlap all dynamic and do the same again, ticking overlap for weapons and cover, hit accept. Then we want to go down to pawn, and we want to tick ignore for both cover and weapon. Then we want to go down to trigger, and we want to ignore for cover and ignore for weapon, hit accept. Then we need to go down to invisible wall. We want to ignore cover, and invisible wall dynamic, we want to ignore cover as well. Next, we're going to hit the new button, and we're going to call this dead player. And we'll set the collision enabled to query only, the object type to a pawn, and we're going to set visibility to ignore, camera, weapons and cover to ignore. We're going to set pawn to ignore, physics body, vehicle, destructible, projectile and trigger all to ignore. And we're just going to leave world static and world dynamic on block, and then we can hit accept. Once that's done, we can close the project settings, and I'm going to open up our character blueprint. So for me, this is the first person character. For you, this would be your player character blueprint. So we'll open that up, and we're going to go to the viewport. Now, this blueprint includes two weapon meshes. Yours may or may not have these. Yours may also have things like armor or any other additional meshes or blueprints. We want to make sure that the only thing blocking the weapon trace is the mesh here. If you're using a custom skeletal mesh like this seems to be, you're going to want that to be blocking it as well. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to select our capsule component and make sure it's ignoring the weapon and cover channels, which it is, so that's good. If yours isn't, you can hit the drop down here, hit custom and tick weapons and cover on ignore. Next, I'm going to go to the mesh. Most people will be using this for their character mesh. So you're going to want to make sure that the weapons and cover are blocking on the mesh component. For this video and for this character blueprint, I have an additional skeletal mesh, so I'm going to select that, and I'm also going to make sure that that's blocking our weapons and cover. if you may or may not have additional meshes or skeletal meshes in your character blueprint. If you do, we're going to select those and make sure that they're not blocking the weapon trace. So I'm going to select the weapon here, and we can see it's actually already set to no collision. And because we edited our presets earlier, the weapon and cover are already set to ignore, so that's good. I'm just going to double check that this weapon's the same, and it is, so we don't need to change anything. If your mesh does have some collision, you can again click the custom drop down and tick ignore for weapons and cover. So now we've set all our collision settings up, we're going to add some tags to this to our player character blueprint. So I'm going to go to class defaults and I'm going to search for tag, and we're going to add two new tags. The first one being AI, both in full capitals, and then the second one being player, with the first letter being a capital. And what this does is it tells the smart AI that this is an actor that should be considered by the AI system, and it tells it that this is a player. So we can compile and save that now. And next we're ready to migrate our smart AI folder into this project. So I'm just going to tab back over to our smart AI project, right click smart AI, hit migrate and hit OK. And you're going to find your projects. So for me that's in my documents, Unreal projects, my project. And I'm going to select the content folder and hit select folder. You may get an error saying some files weren't copied. You don't need to worry about that. That's fine. So next we can tab back into our My Project, and we should, if we go to content, have our Smart AI folder. So now we're going to prepare our level for the AI. It's important that your level must have a nav mesh bounds volume. So we'll drop that in. And if we hit P on our keyboard, you can see we get this green overlay. That's the nav mesh. We need to make sure that anywhere you want the AI to be able to move to, that has to be covering. So we're going to scale this up. Scale this up in this direction as well. So we want it to cover basically our whole level like that. If yours doesn't turn green, you can also click the drop down here and go down to build paths, and that should rebuild the nav mesh. So with that done, we should actually be able to drop in a smart AI character and have them attack our player character. So I'm going to go to the smart AI folder, blueprints, AI characters, example, and we'll do a zombie. So we can drop our zombie into the world. When you drag it into your world for the first time, it might take a moment to load. There you go, it's just loaded up. So I'm going to rotate him to face our character and hit play. And you can see he's trying to get to me now. And once he gets to me, he should try and attack me. He's not doing any damage because this player blueprint doesn't have a health system. And if I try and shoot him, you can see my bullets actually go through. So what we're going to do next is set up, modify our projectile that comes with the first person blueprint so that it can damage our AI. If you're using a custom projectile, the process should be fairly similar. It might be a little bit different depending on how your projectile is set up, but this should give you an idea of how to go about setting it up for your projectile. So we're going to open up the first person projectile, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the collision component. Again, if you're using your own projectile, this will be the component that has all its collision turned on and tells the projectile when it hits stuff. So I'm going to select that, and we're going to go to collision presets, and we're going to make sure that the pawn is set to block. And we're also going to go to can character step up on, and set this to no. Then we can compile this. Another thing we're going to want to make sure we do is back in the collision settings for our collision component, is we're going to make sure that it's ignoring the cover trace. We'll probably set it to ignore visibility as well, unless your projectile needs this to be enabled, but definitely make sure that the cover is set to ignore. And once that's done, we can make some modifications in here. So this is the default first-person projectile, and the way this works is if it hits something that's simulating physics, it will add an impulse, which is what makes the boxes in the level move, and then it destroys the projectile. If it hits something that doesn't simulate physics, that's when it will bounce. So for us, we're going to, our character doesn't simulate physics, so we're going to drag off from the false. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the hit, because that gives us details about the thing that the projectile hit. And we're going to drag out from the hit actor. We're going to do apply damage. Now, this we'll call the damage event on the AI. So we can connect this up to false here. And I'm just going to set the base damage to 10. If you have a more advanced damage system or anything like that, you can hook that up to here and it will do that damage to the AI. And next we're going to connect this up to the destroy actor, because we want it to destroy once it hits something. And then we can compile. Before we continue in here, we actually want to go back to our first person character. So this is our player blueprint, and go to the event graph. And we're going to find the spawn first-person projectile node. Now, again, if you're using your own project with your own projectiles, you need to find where you're spawning your projectile blueprint, because we need to make sure that we have an owner and an instigator, because what this does is it tells the AI who shot the bullet at them, so they know who to attack or who to run away from. So we're just going to do search for self, and we can plug that into owner and to instigator like that, and then we can compile. Once we've done that, we can go back to our first person projectile, and we need to pass that information through our apply damage node, so it tells our AI who attacked them and who the owner is. So what we're going to do is search for get owner, plug that into the damage causer, and then we're going to search for get instigator, which is here, and then we'll drag off from that and do get controller and connect that up to our event instigator there, and then we can compile. Next, something you might want to add if you're using impulses is a quick little change. We're going to drag out from other component, hit equals twice, and do drag out from other component, do get class, then drag out from this and do equals twice, equals class, and we'll search for skeletal mesh, and we want skeletal mesh component, and we'll drag out from this and do an if, and we'll try and make this look a bit tidier. We'll connect this up to the true on our simulate physics. If true, we want to not add an impulse, and if false, we want to add an impulse. And what this will do is stop this projectile shooting the dead AI body across the map. So we can compile that. Again, if you're doing your own, if you have your own custom projectile, you may not have to do that because you might not be using impulses, but it's a little trick that you can use if you are. So we can double check that this is working, so we can hit play, we can shoot our AI and he should die like that, so we know that everything so far is working. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a very basic health system on my player character, just to make sure that our AI is dealing damage to him. And then we need to set up the system for if an AI is following my player character, because he needs to know what character I'm attacking. So to start off, we're going to go to our first person player character. So for me, that's my first person character. And we're going to go to class settings, and we'll get rid of this search, and we'll do on implemented interfaces, we want to go add, we want to search for AI interface there. And when we add that, you'll see we've got some new interface functions. We can hit compile quickly. So to add damage now to our player character that our AI can interact with, we're going to use the event damage, event any damage node. So this event is called whenever the AI does damage to this player character. If you have your own damage system, you're probably using this. If you're not, you will need to make further changes in Smart AI where you replace any calls to this event with your custom event. But if you're using a custom event, you probably know how to do that anyway. So for this video, I'm just sticking with the built-in damage system that comes with UE4. So we've got our damage node now. So now we need a health variable. So I'm just going to make this quickly. We'll set it to an integer because it's a little bit easier. And what we'll do is we'll get it and we'll do minus, and we'll do minus the damage. So that will minus whatever damage comes in from our current health. And what we'll do is if this is less than or equal to 0, we know that this player is now dead because he's got less than 0 health, or he's got 0 health. So if true, we'll just do destroy actor. So it will destroy this character if he runs out of health. If you have a respawn system or whatever else, you can connect that up to here. Again, this is just a very basic example to make sure that our AI is damaging our player character. So if false, what we need to do is we need to set our health to whatever the result of this is, like that. And I'll do a print out as well. So we'll do print string, and we can connect that to here, and that will just print out our health every time we take damage. So we can compile this now. And one thing we need to do is, so the AI knows whether or not this character is dead, we need to go to the AI is dead interface function. And you may have a variable that's called dead or player dead or something like that. You can just connect straight to this. But if you don't, we can do get health. We can do is less than or equal to 0. If it is, then we know that the player is dead because his health is 0 or less than 0. So that should set up our basic health system. So we can test this out quickly by hitting play. And I'm going to attack my zombie. Oh, one thing we do need to do is go back to our player character, and our health is currently 0. So our AI thinks that our player is dead. So I'm just going to set this to 100, like that. You can hit play. And now he's attacking us again because he considers us alive. So we're just going to stand here. You can see he's doing damage to us now. And he's killed us. I can't move my character anymore. The actor has been destroyed. So we know now that our damage is getting through to our player character. And you can see our AI's wandered off now because he knows that our player's dead. So that's good. Next, we're going to go back to our player character, and we're going to add a new component, and we're going to search for activate, and we want to use the bp player activator. Now you won't use this unless you're using the AI manager optimization features, which I have a separate video on that you can take a look at, but we need this to be on our player character because this is what activates AI within a certain radius of our player. So we're going to make sure we have that, and then if you want to explore those settings, you can go and check out that video. So the last thing we're going to do is we need to in this function over here, actor attack target, we need to basically give this whatever our player is attacking. So if an AI is following our player character, we need to tell it that we're attacking this target so that it can decide whether or not to attack it as well. If you're using a trace system, so if you're using line traces to do your damage and you're doing it in your player character blueprint, it's actually a little bit easier. You can basically just create an actor variable and set that to whatever you hit with your line trace. But because in this blueprint we're using projectiles, which is a little bit more complicated, I'm going to just be doing the projectile version. If you do need an example of how to set up the attack target with a line trace, you can look at the BP example character that's included with Smart AI, and that's what that does. But for this video, I'm going to do a projectile. So we're going to start by going to our level, and we want to go to the Smart AI folder, go to Blueprints, then to the AI folder. Then we need to go to, it might be easier to just search actually, so I'm going to do AI interface. It might be in the Blueprints folder, here. So you want to go to Smart AI Blueprints, and we're going to open up the BP AI interface. And in here, we're going to create a new function. And we're going to call this, we'll call this current attack target. And what we can do with this is we can create an input. We're going to set this to actor, like that, and we'll call this attack target. And we'll add an output, and we'll just call this, we'll set this to a bool, and we'll call this return value. And that lets us keep things organized. So we'll do that, and we can compile this quickly. And then we want to go back to our player character blueprint. So this is my one. And we'll do a compile. And you should see that new function come up now. And what we're going to do is we're going to open that up. So now we want to drag out from this, and we'll do promote to variable. We'll call this player attack target, like that, and we'll connect it up, and we'll take the return value. And next we're going to go to we want to go to our projectile. So we need to basically the projectile needs to tell the player character what actor it's hit. So the player character can tell the AI that's following it who he's attacking. So we can do this a few ways. We can drag out from get owner. We can do current attack target, and we can use this node, connect it up like this. And then we need to set the attack target. So we're going to use the hit actor and just connect that to there. So now every time this projectile hits something, it will tell the player character who he's hit. So we can compile this now, go back to our first person character, compile this. We need to go to our actor attack target, and we'll use our player attack target, and we'll do this like that. And now we can compile and save this. So now that's done, we can quickly set up a scenario where we can test this. So I'm going to delete my zombie out, and I'm going to get rid of this search. So we'll go to AI characters, examples, and we'll go to, say, soldiers. Now, something to keep in mind, if the melee soldier and the ranged soldier won't attack the player character, but the aggressive versions will. So what we want to do is we'll do a melee soldier, because we want this guy to be on our team. And we will scroll down, select our AI component, and we'll search for follow. And we'll hide the animation settings for now because we don't need those. So the follow actor, I can click the little pick from scene button and select our first person character there. And what we want to do is we want to tick attack follow actor target, and attack follow attackers. I won't go into detail about how these settings work in this video, as I have a separate follow settings video that you can check out if you want to learn more about these. But what this basically does is this will make the AI that's following the player attack anything that the player attacks, and then this setting will make it so if our player's attacked by something, our AI will attack the thing that's attacking them. And again, if you hover over settings, they have descriptions that you can check out. So we've got that set up. Now we need something to attack our player. So I can actually do a second melee range soldier, and when we attack him, he should try and attack us, and our follow guy behind us should attack him. One last thing we need to change just before we test this out is we want to select the AI that's meant to follow our player. Select the AI component and search for starting, and set the starting behavior to follow. And then we can hit play, and we should see our AI follow us. I can walk around and he'll try and follow me, and then if I attack this guy over here, you can see he attacks him. He's trying to attack him now while I'm running away. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's the basic setup to migrate Smart AI to another project. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and don't forget to join our Discord as well, which I'll link in the description, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.